Hello there, my name is Teleola and this is Career Talks with me. So, the purpose of this is to showcase Nigerian trained lawyers who are now in the diaspora doing amazing things. So, they'll be sharing their personal experiences, and this would help those who are looking to tow a similar path as them. This promises to be value packed. Make sure you stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. So today I have in another special guest. His name is Temitayo, and he is a data privacy specialist. So I know this is going to be a value-packed one and an interesting one. So please, Temitayo, could you introduce yourself briefly?
Hello, Teliola. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. Temitayo, but everyone calls me Tayo. Friends, family, and colleagues alike. So just call me Tayo. I am a Nigerian lawyer, like most of my friends as well. But I'm specialized in privacy and a little bit of information security. Started my practice in Nigeria, worked for a few years, and then traveled to Europe for my graduate studies. I currently work in Amsterdam, used to work in Belgium, but I work in Amsterdam now as a global privacy professional in human resources. That's my current thing, but who knows what I will do in the next few months. Again, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hmm, Okay. Thank you, Tayo. Sorry, I called you Tim Tayo. Thank you, Tayo. Yes. Okay, so can I ask why you decided to transition from law to privacy?
Mm, long story, but I'll try to make it short, right? I think it all started with a friend of mine, Adavizi Alao. His name may ring a bell. It's late now, it passed a few years ago, but he's one of the pioneers, the early pioneers of privacy in the Nigerian space. And back in the day, we used to have conversations around this topic. And it kind of piqued my interest, but I really didn't do much about it back then. Um, in the course of my work as a lawyer, then I wrote some legal opinions on privacy, but nothing concrete. But eventually, I said, hey, it would be nice to maybe get some better understanding, better grasp of this topic, and I moved to Europe for my graduate studies. It was a program on international and European law with focus on data law. When I graduated, I did some back and forth with a few organizations, and here I am. It's not exactly a straight path, but that's the summary of it. I think that the foundational thing that set me on this journey would be my graduate studies in Europe.
Okay. Okay, so could you thank you for that. So could you please share the steps that you took to successfully make this career transition?
So when I got to Europe, Brussels, I did my graduate studies in Brussels, my LLM in Brussels. Again, it was a program in international and European law with specialization in data law. When I got there, when I arrived, I quickly had to do like a market survey because I wasn't sure where I landed exactly, and I realized I was a bit of a weird one because there were so many restrictions for people like me. Well, I'm African. I mean, the restrictions were both professional and social. For one, it was a civil law jurisdiction. I was a common law trained lawyer, so I mean, practice was almost impossible. Bar qualification was another thing, right? You know how limiting our bar license can be, but also the fact that I didn't have much of I would say, professional background in something highly specialized. You know the kind of law that we practice in Nigeria mostly. It's like general law. So I figured that it would be a bit of a challenge, navigating the market. But I wanted to get into the corporate space as quickly as I could, right? So I had conversations with a few people, including the director of the program, and a few other friends. And also because I had a language challenge as well. So in Belgium, they speak three national languages, none of which is English: French, German, and Dutch. So the market was really crazy. I mean, from my end, it was like the odds were incredible for me. I realized that if I wanted to stand a chance, I would have to do something that was very in demand. and very global too, such that I wouldn't have all of these restrictions. And then I looked around. So I realized that if I wanted to have a shot at the European corporate market, I'd have to do something really global, something that was globally in demand. And luckily for me, the GDPR just came out then. It came out in 2018. I moved to Europe in 2019. So while privacy wasn't exactly new in Europe, it's always been here, at least for decades. The GDPR was a shiny new toy that everyone was fascinated with. So I mean, it was like an early movers market thing. So the earlier you got in, the bigger your chances of finding a space. And that was what I tried to take advantage of. But of course, it didn't come easily because of all of the other things that I mentioned: the language, the qualification, the fact that there was no post-study work visa when I went to Belgium, to Brussels. So you had to get a job. You graduate in September, you have to leave in October unless you get a job. So the window was really tight. Yeah, and but I wanted to work in Europe. I didn't want all of my European training to just maybe either go to waste or just take it back home without doing any actual work with it. So yeah, it was a bit of it was quite the challenge, but I took it on, and I, I think in maybe 1 year I was able to fit 10 years worth of work into that space. But yes, I did some certifications, did some trainings, combined it with my previous work experience, and yeah, eventually found myself in the markets, both in Brussels and eventually in Amsterdam.
Okay. Thank you, Tayo. So, in terms of your job search, would you say that it was challenging? And how were you able to overcome the language barrier? So, how many languages do you speak now?
It was quite, like I told you, it wasn't even about the language alone. There were other restrictions too. Our profession can be quite limiting. Once you're out of your jurisdiction, problem, right? And it's not like the UK, the US, or Canada, the big three as we call them, where you can, for one, those regions have common law legal systems, so it's a bit easier to transition. If you go to other parts of Europe, it's civil law, which would require that you go through the entire system from scratch, which is like 8 years at the minimum. So I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't ready to do that. So getting a job was not easy. That's a fact. It wasn't easy because the work permit thing was a problem. Nobody wanted to sponsor, especially if you're not bringing a lot. So you can be sharp, you can be brilliant, you can be hardworking and tenacious and all of that. But the fact that you're not European, you don't speak the language, so automatically you can't even engage with clients, right? You can appear at the local bar. And what else? Yeah, there are so many of your peers are polyglots. So if you're Belgian, by default, you're a polyglot. You speak at least three languages, and those are the kind of people that I was competing with. But yeah, I was so determined because I wanted to do something in the corporate space. I didn't come to Europe to abandon my law degree. So I started looking, started making applications. I was reaching out to different people. I was also doing a lot of cold emails and whatnot on LinkedIn. I was networking. I eventually stumbled on an opportunity. Right, it was with a law firm. I applied and I got an offer. I would say they invited me for an interview. Did the interview, and yeah, I was lucky to get that in the sense that when I looked around that period, I realized that I was the only Nigerian, you know, graduate student that was working at a law firm in that. It felt very strange because I was at the point I was trying to look for a community where I could discuss, we could rub minds and discuss issues, but I couldn't find anything. So that was quite challenging. Again, I'm trying to summarize all of this because it's a very long story. I can tell you for days, but I would say those were the highlights of the things that I had to do to eventually break into the space. It wasn't easy. I had to start learning the language as well. Because again, depending on where you live in Belgium, you would have to speak one of the languages. When I was in Brussels, I had to learn a bit of French, which I still speak. But then when I got a job, I moved to the other region. It's called Flanders, and that's the Dutch region. So I had to eventually start learning Dutch. Dutch is a very weird language, so yeah, that one is hard. But now that I'm in the Netherlands, I still have to learn Dutch. But I'm learning for fun now because it's not required in my day to day.
Okay, that's quite interesting because I don't even know if I can. Well, never say never, but at my old age.
If you have to, trust me, you will learn if you have to. Hmm? I guess if you have yeah, to, if you have to, you will learn. I mean, I had to. It was fun anyway because French is a beautiful language. Yeah, it was fun. But if you're learning under pressure, it's a different thing entirely. But eventually, it really didn't matter in me getting a job because I was able to get a job with an international law firm, and then I started working with the Nigerian embassy in Brussels as well. So it was because I was everywhere. I was just throwing myself anywhere I could find opportunities. In fact, there were places that I went to that I just said, "Hey, even if it's to arrange chairs, especially privacy events, you will find me there." Because I wanted to get a head start. I wanted to get something to put on my CV, especially considering that I didn't have a lot of hands-on experience in privacy too before I moved. So I just became a jack of all trades essentially.
Okay. Thank you for that. It's quite inspiring because um most people wouldn't do half as much as you to get a job, but you were really determined, and now, I mean, you're here, so it means that you did something right, right? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I tried my best, I would
Absolutely.
say.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well done for that. So, what qualities do you think are essential for someone who is looking to transition from law to privacy?
That's a very interesting question in the sense that even myself, I haven't transitioned. It feels like it. I mean, it sounds like it, but I really haven't. Because privacy is all about law at the basis. You need to have a to be a privacy person per se. You need to have an understanding of the law, and so I want to make a distinction between privacy practice, the basic privacy practice, and then the high level privacy practice. So the basic privacy practice is something that every lawyer can do. As a lawyer, all you need to do primarily is just read the GDPR, read the NDPA, read one any other privacy law regulation, and then advice based on the scenario that your client has given you. You can apply the provisions of the law. But implementation of those or operationalization of those laws is a different thing entirely, and that's where some of us, take it to the next level. So, if I were to say that, how would you transition, or the qualities that you need to have? For one, don't the qualities that made you a lawyer, don't abandon them, because as a lawyer, you have the biggest edge when it comes to transitioning into privacy. You have an advantage already. You can read laws, you can easily interpret them, you can articulate your thoughts, you can write very well. So that's a big advantage. So the idea is that retain your legal training while still playing on the periphery of law, and then adding other competencies. So that's something. Another would be, just being ambitious, really, because if you're a privacy person, you can remain a privacy person, like a privacy professional, which would just mean that it would entail just analyzing laws, analyzing privacy laws. But can you operationalize them? Can you implement them into processes? Can you design privacy programs? Can you manage them? And that's something that unfortunately you cannot really learn in house. It's something that most of the things that you learn as a privacy practitioner would be outside of your job or outside of your training per se. You have to do a lot of self development. And also there's the importance of community too. I've started WhatsApp groups that if I have a tough situation at work, I just pop a question in there and you see people, just profiling one idea or the other. So tenacity is something that you must have, ambition, something that you must have as well, and just humility, because the work will humble you too, right? So when I started my privacy journey, like real hands-on privacy, I did a stint at a consulting firm. I worked at Ernst and Young in Amsterdam for a while, and it wasn't. When I started the job, I realized that it wasn't even privacy. Privacy, it was next level privacy. It was like security, and for me, it was a very destined phase because I felt like a baby again. So I had to be really humble. And for me, the confusing part of that phase of knowledge was that it wasn't that I didn't understand things, which would have been fine. I mean, sometimes you see things and you don't understand them. The problem for me then was that I didn't understand what I didn't understand. So it was a next level type of confusion, right? And if you want to take that next step, go to that next phase in your privacy practice, you have to be able to get to that level to where everything just sounds like Chinese or Latin. So you have to really bring yourself low, ask questions, be very curious, right? And very dedicated as well. Like I said, tenacity. These things they don't come easily. There's a lot of competition, especially in the crazy beer market that we're experiencing right now. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, you have to be um very determined, you have to be tenacious, and yeah, you need to know what you want and go for it, because I'm sure it must have been a steep learning curve for you, as you said. Yes. Okay. So some people might want to know if you need to get a privacy certification to be able to land a job in privacy. So what are your thoughts on that?
So usually I would for me just jumping into certifications before actually understanding what privacy is like putting the cart before the horse. It should be one at a time, I would say, right? So certifications are indeed important, but I think, I mean, from what I know now, their role may be a bit overstated. So the good thing is that certifications will maybe get you at the door. They will get you into the door, right? They will offer you a space in the room, but can they keep you there? That's another question, right? So indeed, yes, I would encourage certifications, but there are layers to certifications when it comes to privacy too. So there are many for starters, for people that are just starting out, for enthusiasts, I would say, right? You don't need to jump to the gold standards, the IAPP certifications for a lot of reasons. I'll come to that. So the advice that if you're starting out, right, you can take a lot of free courses on Alicin, on Coursera, on Udemy, just to guide you on that path. There are a couple of other options too that can help you, start getting that foundational knowledge that you need, including, putting out content, networking and all of that, right? But when you've done all of that and you feel like, oh, you're fully in the industry, then you can start looking at the gold standard. The gold standard is the IAPP certifications, the CIPPE, the CIPM, and blah, 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 right? The beauty of those certifications is that, just like you said, when you have them in front of your name or on your CV, it's a prima facie evidence that you have an idea of this topic. So if you're applying, right, if you have the same skill set with the next applicants, and that is the only distinguishing factor, chances are you will get called first because, yeah, I mean, it's evidence of maybe dedication and whatnot. So we will get you in the door, no doubt. But again, from my experience, they're very theoretical exams too. 90% of what you see in these certifications, you may not really see them in practice. But are they useful? Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. Right? But don't be obsessed with them. That's the point I was trying to make. Emphasize, place more attention or place a premium on getting hands-on training, right? Try to understand what privacy is, how privacy works, before you even start obsessing with certifications. And I say this a lot because I see the reverse when people come to me for advice. I'm interested in privacy. Should I write this? I'm like, you have to at least calm down. You have to even understand if you really like this privacy or you just like the idea of it, because it can be funny sometimes, right? So get into it first, learn, network, speak to people, see if you can get your hands dirty as well. Could be by volunteering, it could be on a consultancy basis, right? Then when you're done, and then pick up all of those free certifications too, not the technical ones or the expect, because they're quite expensive too, right? So when you're done with all of those and you're sure that this is what you want to do, then you can start getting IPP certifications.
Mm, Thank you so much, Taya, for that, because some people, most people ask all the time. They say, "Oh, do I need to get this certification and that?" But you need to understand, it's important that you understand what privacy or what that new field is all about, because it seems like, oh, it's a buzzword now. Oh, privacy, this, that, and that. But you might go in there, and you don't even like it. So thank you for. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So, to someone who is new to privacy, right? And they don't even know what it is. They just know, oh, it's a buzzword, like it's cool. Could you please explain what you do in a minute?
What to do in a minute? I will try my
Yes.
best, right? So I will try my best. I think I may have touched on some part of it, right? Try to just Google what privacy is. Read up articles on it. There are 1,001, 1,000,001 materials on what privacy practice is. You have to approach it from the perspective of the law. It's a law. It's a strictly regulated industry, right? It's a bunch of laws that say, hey, do this, do that, do this. This is who this is. Try to get that idea into your mind at first. When you do that, try to understand the domains in privacy. By domain, territorial scope, who a data subject is, what legal bases are, what the principles of data protection are, international transfer of data. These are all domains, and they are in a very sequential, order. Try to understand them, what these things are actually talking about. I keep saying that these 8 or 9 domains, if you know them, you know privacy, at least at the basis. So try to understand the domains, and also reach out to people, connect with people, attend events, attend seminars, speak to people, network, right? Talk to mentors, because in this journey you need sponsors, and you need mentors as well. So it's very important.
Okay, thank you for that. So, that takes me on to the next question, which is that reflecting on your career journey, is there anything that you think you might have done differently?
Differently, for me, it would be a resounding no. Hmm? And I'll say there's a reason for that. So for me, I've always known that I would be an expatriate in a big city from day one. I used to read a lot growing up. I've read about all of these beautiful, enchanting cities, and I always said, hey, but there's a video of me that I recorded like 2018, 2019, I think 4 years ago, where I was saying, one of these days I'm gonna be an expatriate in London and New York, in Amsterdam. I didn't know I was going to end up in Brussels and Amsterdam. I never even thought. I'd not even, you know, it wasn't even an idea. It was an idea, but I didn't know how it would flesh out. But for me, I'd always done that, so I didn't want to be a local champion. That was something that you know, I it was a goal that I set since I was young, and I've managed to accomplish that. And since I became a lawyer, and I've grown in the industry too, I would say that I think I may have done all the right things, right? I look back in my career, and I don't see anything that I didn't do the way I should have done, to be honest, right? Because I was supposed to. So the idea, like everyone does, is to go to the UK, to the US, to this and that, right? And I was going to eventually, but I visited Europe for 6 weeks in 2018. I was like, I like this place. It wouldn't be nice to live here, right? And for me, that was decided. That was why I moved to Europe, and it's been such an amazing decision. And I've had opportunities that I didn't think that I would. I mean, I would never know anyway. But but the fact remains that I've had to do like hard work every step of the way. I've had to apply myself. I keep saying, sometimes I say that in 2 3 years in Europe, I think I may have fit maybe 10 years of work into that short window. So it's been a lot of hard work. It's been a lot of commitment, and maybe a little bit of luck. I don't know, but it's all aligned very nicely. So yeah, I wouldn't say I would do anything separately or differently, because if I had to, I think I would take the same journey again, over and over again.
Thank you, Tayo. So, from what you said, you had always known what you wanted for yourself, and you went for it. So you're not living in regrets today. Yeah, which is fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about life in Amsterdam, life in Europe. So how is it? Like, would you recommend? Um, would you recommend like a Nigerian to move there? How's the Nigerian community there? Because I don't really know that many Nigerians in Amsterdam, or maybe I'm just ignorant. But yeah, how is it like living as a Nigerian in Amsterdam?
For one, you know me, so I don't think you can exactly say that anymore. Um, but great question, actually. So I've been lucky when it comes to traveling. I've been to a few places, like everywhere. and I have the benefit of comparative experience, right? I can compare one place to the other. So I would say, and I keep saying that this is the only country that I can live in Europe. And I say this again based on comparative experience. I've been to the US, to Canada, to so far I've done like 33 countries, so I can compare many of these places, right? I've been to the UK. I've got family. My siblings live in the UK, and I visit every other month. I cannot live in the UK. No offense. Yes, I would. This is top of my list for anyone, and the reason for that is so the Netherlands is the only country in Europe where English is very prevalent. It's not the official language, but it's the second language. So every Dutch person speaks English, basically. And that's why in 2 years I've not really had a solid grasp because I'm not making any real effort to learn, right? So if you don't speak Dutch, nobody cares because everyone can speak English. It's a very literate country. It's a wealthy country too, comparatively. I mean, I worked in Belgium and I work here now, and I can compare I can compare the income, it's two completely different things. The market is very open. So the market is very open. So if you graduate, if you're hardworking and you speak to people, you will get a job. So people leave Brussels, which is very close, by the way, and move here, right? And it's such a beautiful country. It's so calm. The transport system works excellently. And yeah, so there is a very big Nigerian community in the Netherlands. At least so far, there are about maybe 32, 33,000 Nigerians, which is, I mean, yeah, the country is not so big. Yeah, like I said, it's an amazing place. Somewhere that I would recommend for any Nigerian young professional that's looking to move. And in recent times, there's been a preference for Nigerian IT professionals too. So lots of Dutch companies are recruiting directly from Nigeria. And when they do that, they bring you and your family and everybody just bring you in to come do work for them. Again, it's a beautiful place to start a family or to raise a family. I don't have any regrets, and I'm thinking long term. But I'm a Rolling Stone. I don't know where I'll be next year. But yeah, and career wise too, it's a very open market. The market is really open. It's quite competitive, but it's quite open. If you have the right set of skills, you will learn something. That's how I see it. And from my experience, right? I didn't study here. I studied in Belgium. If you're applying, if they see that you have the right set of skills, they will bring you in. And again, because of the ease of communication, so everyone speaks English, it's really nice. And beyond that, there is a thriving community of Nigerians here, Nigerian professionals. I belong to an expatriate group, a very big one on WhatsApp, and we're always sharing ideas. There's so many other channels on that group. If you want to buy a house, if you want to learn a language, if you want to whatever, right? So people are always there to help you do whatever you want to do, to help you settle. So yeah, I would recommend it. And if you're a lawyer as well, you're thinking, hey, language, career, bar qualification and whatnot. It's not exactly a challenge in the sense that if you have that default legal training, right, you can always leverage it for something else. There's so many options. You could do AML, anti-money laundering. You could do CTF, counterterrorism financing. You could do compliance, regulatory compliance, or privacy, like I do, right? So you still stay in law. You're not just practicing law traditionally. So these options are still there, even as a Nigerian trained lawyer. And so I said the market is quite open. It's a place that I would encourage anyone that's looking to move. Yeah, and the people are great too. They're really nice. The only challenge is that they're extremely tall. They're the tallest people in the world. So if you're not tall, or you have a problem with that, you will be intimidated if you want to. That I would say is one challenge. Yeah,
That means,
yeah.
that means if I go there, I'll just be lost,
I mean,
lost
you
in the
see, you
storm.
see, you see women that are what 6'3", 6'4". It's a regular size. It's not an unusual size. Yeah,
Wow.
they are officially they're the tallest people in the world. So I mean, on the average. So
Mm.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
one
amazing.
that's one culture shock that I'm still dealing with. You're talking to people, you're like, you're looking at them from up top. But yeah,
Okay. So that means someone like me, I don't know, I'll just be looking at everybody like, okay, hi, hi. I'll be looking up all the time because I'm just 5'1".
maybe not everybody, but a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned something about culture shock. Interestingly, that was my last question. So I was gonna ask, how has it been? Do you have any stories to share? Just let us in on that aspect of.
I mean, the culture shocks have been more professional than I would say more social, right? I mean, culture shocks like cycling to the office with your manager or with your boss. We cycle everywhere. I cycle a lot. I don't drive. I have different bikes for different events. It's a cycling country. Everyone bikes, so that is something, right? Um, Also, when it comes to work, there is no hierarchy. It's a very flat structure. So you're talking to people like colleagues, irrespective of their level. That's something that it took some getting used to, of course, based on where we came from or where we're coming from. It's something that we're not used to, and something that you may struggle with, but eventually it becomes a part of you. So that's something that I considered interesting when I first moved, but it's all in the past now. What other culture shocks would I say I've experienced? I don't know. Maybe the food as well. They don't have any food, just cheese and fries. That's the only food. And maybe fish. So that's something that one may struggle with. But again, because of the influx of Nigerians, you would always find Nigerian dishes, right? Nigerian food stuff. So you can really go to the market and get things and make for yourself. That's if you don't want to change your palate. I've been very adventurous. I usually wasn't adventurous, but I've been trying out a lot of Dutch food, if I can call it that. And yeah, so yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tayo. With all that you said, I just feel like hopping on a plane to Amsterdam and just moving there, you know.
You're very much welcome.
You really,
You're welcome. Don't worry, we'll roll
yeah.
out the red carpet for you when you come.
No problem, no problem. Yes, and one last thing. So you said it's quite open, right? It's an open market. So that means that they would sponsor your work visa, right?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let me give you an idea of how things even work. Because yeah, beyond sponsoring your work visa, there are a couple of other benefits as well. So for one, if you come in as an expatriate, yeah, if you're brought in from anywhere, for the first 5 years, the first 30% of your income is untaxed. So what they do is they take that 30% and they just pay it to you straight up. I mean, of course, on a monthly or an annual basis, monthly usually. So 30% of your annual income goes to you, is not taxed. So what is taxed is the outstanding 70%, which is still high, but I mean it's the same approach in Europe. But that 30% there, it could be as high as 2K per month, which is it's like extra money that you wouldn't have. So a lot of people have done really nice things with that extra income. That's one perk of moving. Um, Another is that I mean there's so many so many other benefits as well. There are lots of incentives, I would say. And like I said, it's a wealthier country than most. So this minimum pay, there's this minimum restriction that was a thing in the UK where they said they increased the minimum pay for expatriates from something to 32 or 40 something thousand pounds. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. But when I saw it, I was a bit confused because here in the Netherlands, the baseline, the threshold for expatriates, if you're 30, is 60,000 euros. So the point is that if you don't earn 60,000 euros, you can't even get a job. So you can see what the standard is, right? So and that's why that a lot of people are still coming, which just gives you an idea of what people are earning. It's not a bad place to work at all.
Okay. Okay. So if you move to Amsterdam, you can live well and you can earn well. So
Maybe not in Amsterdam. People say Amsterdam, like Amsterdam is the only country in the Netherlands. I don't even live in Amsterdam. I work in Amsterdam, but I don't live in Amsterdam because there are so many other there are places that are more beautiful than Amsterdam. right?
Mm.
Amsterdam is not even the economic capital of the Netherlands. It's Rotterdam. That's
Okay.
the economic capital. It's like Rotterdam is like Lagos. Amsterdam is like, I don't know, maybe Abuja or some other touristy spots. Do you get? So there are a lot of really nice places, and the connections are really nice. Transport wise, they are cheaper compared to, it's a flat rate everywhere you go. I mean, compared to the UK,
Okay.
for example. So you can live somewhere. I live in a different city, but I can come to work. I do most of my work on the train when I'm, commuting. So it's pretty convenient.
If you have any further questions, feel free to connect with Tayo on LinkedIn. I will link his LinkedIn profile in the description box below. So thank you, Tayo. Do you have any final words?
Yes. So for my final words would be that it would be a summary of what I would say the high level things to do if you want to do what I am doing, right? I summarize them into five high level points. Number one would be to get a graduate program or get a graduate degree, which is not so easy. I mean, in recent times. But if you can, you should do it. If you've done it already, it's an advantage, especially in the West. It's an advantage. You can. What I did wasn't data. It wasn't, I mean, it was international and European law, but there was a course on data law, and I just kind of latched onto that course and I ran with it, right? So if you can get a graduate degree, another would be if you don't have experience, do a lot of volunteering. That's my second point. That was how I got all of the hands-on experience I got. Because in 1 year, I had to build a data protection CV. Data protection, privacy is a very highly specialized space. You can't combine it with two things, right? So you have to be known as a privacy lawyer or a privacy guy. You cannot be a lawyer that does everything and also does privacy. Nobody will take you seriously. So volunteer to get that experience. Third would be visibility. Once you start getting into the space, put yourself out there. Let people know you. Post things on LinkedIn. Start writing articles. It was what I did. Start writing reports. Start doing research. Make sure that people are seeing your face and your name. The third point would be certifications, like we discussed. You don't need to start with the expensive ones because the expensive ones can be as high as, I think they're almost, the basic one is CIPP is almost pushing a million at this point, right? A million naira almost, right? Not a lot of people can afford them. That's why you should start, easy. Start with the free ones and then build up like that. But certifications may not. I mean, it's not exactly a test of knowledge, but it will get you into those interview rooms. From there, you can just do whatever you like, right? Final point will be networking. Make sure that you're reaching out to people. Make sure you're connecting to people. You're sending messages. You're part of communities that do privacy. It will push you. It will put you at the forefront of things, and people will quickly know you as a privacy person. So 5 points: get a graduate degree if possible, volunteer or do some work, right? Um, Visibility is the third point. Certifications is another point, and networking is the final point.
Mm. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tayo. I'm sure you must have enjoyed this episode if you've made it thus far. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. All right. Bye.
Bye.